Hello, this video is going to cover topic selection for Composition 2. Topic selection is a very important part for this course, so we need to take it seriously and really take our time. You're going to have this topic for most of the semester. Once we're done with the book review, all we'll be doing is focusing on this topic. I'm asking you to start broad because you're going to narrow this topic down. It might be something that you might think is simple, that you'll grab something that is a big topic and say, I'm just going to argue for this. But we're going to get into some more nuanced positions, something that will be a newer way of arguing, but also say something that is important and matters and maybe can be done. I do want your topic to matter to you. I don't want you to pick something that you don't care about. And I do want you to pick something that's going to be interesting, because if it's not interesting, you're going to hate the entire project. And then I do want you to think of something big in scale, nationally, globally. If you're just looking at something that's happening in, your town, that might be a little too difficult to really stay involved with. I also don't want you to be too broad nationally or internationally and pick something that nobody can really touch or grab a hold of. I mean, if you had to have 300 pages of backstory just to understand the issue, that topic might be too big. But who knows? Maybe there's something within that topic that we can actually work with. So let's think about how we begin. I'm going to ask you to get a piece of paper or a pen and a highlighter. I'm going to ask you a series of questions and list your responses. This is also going to be in a worksheet that I'll have available for you. And I just want you to think quickly. You'll have a limited amount of time for each of these questions, and just write what comes to your head. Here we go. Question 1. What are some of the words that define you? I've already asked you to think about this in our first discussion post. You might think of yourself as a student, a son and daughter, an artist, an athlete, a religious person, a non-religious person, a community member, all sorts of things. So make that list. Next, what matters to you locally? What's going on in your life that means a lot to you? So it could be things that are happening at your school if you're in high school, things that are happening in your college, things that are happening in your community, things that are happening in the state, things that are happening in your church or with your friends and family. These are important things. Maybe one of your parents is getting downsized. Maybe one of your friends is going through a bad relationship. Maybe someone's getting a divorce and there's a custody battle. Maybe someone isn't being treated well or being bullied. These are all things that might matter to you. What's happening around your community? That's an important thing as well. Maybe there's an ordinance about speed limits, or somebody is violating laws, or there's a noise problem. All these things can matter. So I want you to think about that. Next, let's start thinking about the national scale. What's happening that concerns you in the country? Now, we might get into some big political issues, and I understand that's a big can of worms to open. However, we're going to try to stay away from these things that we can't necessarily control or have no influence over. We aren't going to change people's minds on various partisan political issues, but there might be some things that can come out of this. So what worries you? What excites you? And what angers you? We have people that are very strongly on one side or another in terms of the political or even religious debates or national moral issues. You can list these things, but recognize that you're probably not going to change a lot of people's minds on these moral issues, regardless of how good your arguments are. But I do want you to think about these and find ways that we can maybe bring them into a discussion. What is important to you? What are you hearing about in the news? Are you paying attention to the news? Why or why not? Question 4. What matters to you globally? What's going on in the world that's mattering to you? Maybe you are engaged in the whole climate change issue and the climate strikes. Maybe you are interested in the Brexit thing or the fires in Australia. Maybe you know nothing about these, and that's okay too. Why might that be? Do you feel you're being left out of things? So what's interesting to you? What is concerning to you? Where do you think you fit in this bigger picture? Excuse me. Then look at the news. Try exploring some websites that give you aggregate news. They just compile a lot of different news, and you can just type in news aggregator, and you'll get headlines, which is a lot easier than just going to your local newspaper or a major news chain like CNN or Fox News, MSNBC, those sorts of things. Look for something that compiles things not based on a particular worldview, but just here's a bunch of information. What are things that are seeming interesting to you? What are some headlines that make you wonder what that person was thinking, right? So somebody does something stupid, and you can find probably stupid news headlines, and like, what was that person thinking? And there are some headlines that might make you wonder what led to a situation, like makes you shake their head. Somebody robs a bank because they are trying to pay for kids' medical bills. That's kind of a big deal, and that actually happened recently. So, what makes you think? So, once you've done all these things, and you don't have to do it in time with this video, but get out your highlighter and highlight some phrases from each of these questions that you think are similar. And you can have multiple color highlighters. That's even more fantastic because you can create themes. But highlight things that go together, and then underline things that might seem contradictory. What I mean by contradictory is that maybe you view yourself as a very religious person, but I don't know, you believe in capital punishment. Those don't always go hand in hand. Maybe you're all for little government intervention in your lives. You're a libertarian, right? But you feel the government should give you money for some reason, right? That is contradictory. So there's interesting things to think about. After that, consider what all these different words have in common. Consider these greater implications. What do you want to know? What don't you want to know? Or what you don't know, I'm sorry. And then start looking for some bigger pictures and narrow it down. We have this worksheet I'm going to give to you. I'm going to show you how to use that in a little bit. Actually, it's available right now. I'm not going to give it to you because it's on this class. And then start thinking of some things. So maybe, for example, you are a student and your concerns are grades and scholarships and things like that. So maybe locally there's how a teacher administers grades, or the prevalence of scholarship opportunities and state testing. Nationally, you might look at educational movements like the Common Core, the standards, the changing of the state of Ohio's graduation requirements. Maybe there's social economic issues. Maybe your parents moved because they wanted to be in a better school district. Is it fair that smaller schools in Ohio and poorer districts have less access and opportunities than some of the wealthier school districts like Oakwood? Think about college costs. That's important. The activities that are available in college, or the advantages of going to college. Is your degree something worth pursuing? And globally, the cost of college is an interesting issue. There are other countries that give free or reduced tuition that don't cost as much. Who are benefiting from these schools and opportunities? How does the United States stack up against other countries, and do the educational reform movements really make an impact? So that's one example. So try it for your topics. Revisit your answers, revise them. It's not a once and done thing, but you're going to think about this. Look at multiple topics, and even if you don't have your topic selected, that's okay. Just trust your gut. What is interesting to you? You're going to spend a couple weeks going through these things. So I hope this little presentation will help you out. I have another presentation that kind of talks about what to avoid, and another presentation that's going to go over the topic worksheet. So this is kind of part one of 3 parts of figuring out your topic. Good luck.